A shocking night unfolds when BTS faces chaos on stage, blurring the line between fame, fear, and fate. When the lights broke, turn off the lights. Now, Jungkook's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through glass. The arena's thundering cheers suddenly twisted into gasps as the stage lights flickered, then died, plunging everything into darkness. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then, a scream. Suga froze mid-step. He could still hear the echo of the last beat they'd played, the bass vibrating through the metal beneath his boots. The crowd had become a living sea, roaring, panicking, searching for something they couldn't see. A single spotlight snapped back on, slicing through the darkness. Its beam landed on Jean, who stood motionless at the center of the stage, his microphone trembling in his hand. Jin's usually calm eyes darted toward the crowd. "There's someone on the stage," he muttered under his breath. His voice barely reached the others through the feedback ringing from the speakers. V turned sharply, his hand instinctively grabbing Jimin's arm. "What do you mean someone's on stage?" he hissed, his throat tight with adrenaline. Then, through the chaos, he saw it too. A shadow moving near the edge of the platform. Too fast to be one of the crew, too desperate to be a fan who'd somehow made it past security. J-Hope stepped forward, raising his hand toward the blinding light, trying to make out the figure. "Is that?" he started, but the rest of his words drowned beneath another scream. This time, from the audience. The sea of phones lit up all at once, their small white lights trembling like fireflies in a storm. The air was electric with fear. Jungkook's chest rose and fell, every instinct inside him screaming to protect the others. "Everyone stay back," he ordered, voice low but firm. The authority in his tone wasn't of a performer. It was of a soldier facing something unseen. The sound of rushing footsteps came from the side stage. Staff members shouted in Korean, their radios crackling. "Get them off." "Now," someone yelled. But before they could move, the shadow darted forward. Suga caught a glimpse, a young man, maybe a fan, face hidden under a hoodie, eyes wide with something that wasn't excitement. It was anguish. "Wait," Suga called, stepping toward him. For a moment, everything slowed. The lights, the sound, even his heartbeat. The boy stopped, tears glistening in the dim glow. "You don't understand," the boy said, voice trembling. "They're not who you think they are." Then, before anyone could react, the boy dropped to his knees, clutching something metallic in his hand. A sharp sound echoed, a clatter of metal hitting the floor. The crowd screamed louder, and chaos erupted again. Security swarmed, dragging the boy away as fans wept and shouted from the stands. The members stood frozen. V's lips parted, breath unsteady. "What just happened?" he whispered. Suga's mind raced, his heart pounding in sync with the flashing emergency lights. He glanced toward Jungkook, who was staring at the fallen object glinting under the light. A small silver pendant shaped like a broken wing. "Someone planted this," Jungkook said softly, crouching to pick it up. His reflection shimmered in the metal surface, distorted, almost unrecognizable. Jean looked toward the crowd again, now half evacuated, half hysterical. "We need to stop the show," he said firmly. "No," Suga replied. His voice was colder than anyone had ever heard it. "We need to find out what this means." Backstage, the team was in chaos. Managers shouted orders, security scrambled, and the echo of the crowd's panic still seeped through the walls. But amidst the noise, the members sat in silence, each lost in thought, trying to process what had just happened. J-Hope leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the pendant now lying on the table before them. "It's not just a fan thing," he muttered. "There's something behind this. Maybe it's connected," V said quietly. "Connected to what?" Jean asked, though deep down, he already felt a chill crawl up his spine. The memory of strange letters, the anonymous messages, the missing crew member 2 nights ago. It all came rushing back like a whisper he'd tried to ignore. Suga exhaled slowly, his eyes dark and distant. "This isn't random," he said. "Someone wanted to send a message tonight." Outside, rain began to fall, tapping against the roof like a slow, rhythmic beat. The pendant gleamed faintly under the fluorescent light, as if alive. Jungkook stared at it, his reflection warping in its cold surface. "Then we'll find out who," he said. "No matter what it takes." In the dim glow of the backstage room, their faces were shadowed by fear, by determination, and by something deeper they didn't yet understand. The show had ended, but something else had begun. The music that once united millions had just opened a door to a truth none of them were ready to face. The silence in the backstage room was suffocating. Only the hum of the fluorescent lights filled the air as rain continued to beat against the roof, slow and heavy, like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. Jungkook still held the pendant in his hand, its cold metal pressing into his palm. The faint inscription on its edge, barely visible, read, "For those who forgot." Suga leaned over the table, eyes narrowing. "For those who forgot?" he muttered under his breath. "Forgot what?" No one answered. Each of them was lost in thought. J-Hope rubbed his temples, his energy dimmed for the first time that night. "This doesn't make sense." Security said the guy didn't even have a ticket. He came in through a service door. How did he get access? Jean exhaled sharply, standing up. "That's exactly what we need to find out. Someone's helping him. No one just walks onto our stage, not in the middle of a world tour." His tone was laced with authority, but underneath it, fear pulsed like a hidden drumbeat. Taeyong sat quietly, his eyes distant. His fingers tapped against his knee in rhythm. 1, 2, 3, as if syncing with the sound of the rain. Then, without looking up, he spoke softly. "You all felt it, right? That moment when the lights went out. It didn't feel like a blackout." Suga looked at him. "What do you mean?" Taeyong's eyes flicked up, sharp and haunted. It felt intentional, like someone wanted to stop the show. The words hung in the air like a curse. Jungkook turned the pendant over again, his thumb brushing against a small engraving he hadn't noticed before, a date. July 13th, 2018. He froze. That was the day of their concert in Osaka, the one where the power had cut out mid-performance for 5 minutes. Everyone had thought it was just a technical issue. "Hyung," Jungkook said, his voice tight. "This date, it's not random." Suga walked over, his expression unreadable. When he saw the date, his jaw tightened. "Osaka," he whispered. "I remember that night. There was another fan who got through security. They found him backstage crying, saying he heard the voices from the lights." Jean frowned. "You're saying this has happened before?" Suga nodded slowly. "And maybe it's happening again." Before anyone could speak, the door burst open. Their manager, Namgil, entered, his face pale and drenched with rain. "We need to move you all to the hotel. Now," he said, breathless. "The police want statements in the morning. The fan's been taken into custody, but what?" J-Hope demanded. Namgil hesitated. "He hasn't said a word since they took him. Just keeps repeating the same sentence. The song will end where it began." A chill spread through the room. The phrase meant nothing, and yet, somehow, it felt familiar. V stood up abruptly. "That's the lyric," he said. Jungkook looked at him, confused. "Lyric?" V nodded. "From one of the unreleased demos we recorded years ago, the one we never finished. Where the song began, the silence returns. It was yours, Hyung." He looked at Suga. Suga's stomach dropped. He hadn't thought about that song in years. A personal track. Something written during the darker days before their debut. A piece that was never meant to see daylight. "That's impossible," he said. "No one outside the company ever heard it. Unless someone made sure they did," Jean said darkly. Outside, thunder rolled. Jungkook pocketed the pendant and stood. "Let's go. We're not staying here any longer." The drive to the hotel was quiet. The city's neon lights bled across the wet windows, painting their reflections in fractured color. Inside the van, the members sat in silence, each replaying the night in their minds. Suga stared out at the rain. His reflection in the glass looked like a ghost, eyes hollow, thoughts spiraling. Who would do this? The boy's voice echoed in his head. "They're not who you think they are." Beside him, Jean scrolled through his phone, watching videos fans had already posted. The incident had gone viral within minutes. Hashtag BTS Chaos Night, trending worldwide. Millions of views. Millions of theories. Some claimed it was a stunt. Others believed it was an omen. "People think it's fake," Jean murmured, his tone bitter. "They're calling it a publicity trick." "Let them," Suga replied coldly. "The truth doesn't care what they believe." When they reached the hotel, the lobby was eerily quiet. Security guards lined the hall, blocking anyone from approaching. They went straight to the 15th floor, an entire level reserved for them. But as they entered their rooms, something fell off. The lights flickered once, twice, then steady. Jungkook's phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked the screen and froze. An unknown number. One message. You sang the first verse. Are you ready for the last? The blood drained from his face. He looked around, half expecting someone to be there, watching. Hyung. He whispered, handing the phone to Suga. Suga read the text. His pulse quickened, his mind connecting dots that shouldn't connect. This isn't random anymore, he said quietly. From across the room, Taeyong spoke again, his tone low. Maybe the concert wasn't just a stage tonight. Maybe it was a signal. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating their faces for a split second. Fear, confusion, and something darker growing between them. Somewhere in the city, sirens wailed. The rain fell harder, and in a small interrogation room across town, the fan who had stormed the stage sat in silence, eyes glazed, humming a melody no one else remembered, a song that shouldn't exist. The hotel room was cloaked in the dim orange glow of the city outside, rain tracing thin silver lines across the window pane. Jungkook sat on the edge of his bed, still clutching his phone as if afraid it might come alive again. The text message burned in his mind. You sang the first verse. Are you ready for the last? Across the room, Suga paced silently, the pendant hanging from his fingers. His usually calm expression had hardened into something unreadable. Every sound in the room, the hum of the air conditioner, the faint drip of water from the window frame, seemed to echo like a ticking clock inside his head. This can't be random, he muttered finally. Whoever sent that message knew too much. The verse, the pendant, the blackout, they're all connected. V leaned back against the wall, his gaze distant. You think it's someone from inside the company? Suga stopped pacing. Maybe. Or maybe someone who used to be. The silence that followed was heavier than before. J-Hope sat cross-legged on the carpet, trying to find some humor to cut through the tension, but nothing came. Hyung, you're scaring me, he said softly. This is starting to sound like a horror film. Jean exhaled, rubbing his temples. Let's think clearly. The fan from tonight. What did he say again? The song will end where it began. That's not just random rambling. He knew something. Jungkook nodded slowly. The way he looked at us, it wasn't anger. It was like he was warning us. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Everyone stiffened. Suga motioned for silence before walking toward it. He opened it slightly and saw Nam Gil, their manager, standing outside, soaked from the rain and looking pale. You need to see this, Nam Gil said, stepping inside. He was holding his tablet, shaking slightly as he handed it to Suga. The police released part of the footage from the security cameras. Look, on the screen was grainy black and white video from the concert. The camera angle showed the fan running onto the stage, but that wasn't what made Suga's stomach drop. Behind the fan, just before the lights had gone out, there was movement. A man dressed in black, wearing a crew pass, pressing something under the stage equipment. Wait, pause it, Suga said sharply. Nam Gil froze the frame. The man's face was barely visible, but his jawline was familiar. Too familiar. Jean leaned in, eyes narrowing. That's not possible. Who is it? J-Hope asked. Suga's throat felt dry. That looks like Han Jae-min. The name hung in the air like a ghost. Han Jae-min, once a sound engineer for their early tours. He'd disappeared years ago after a nervous breakdown, just before their first major concert in Japan. No one had heard from him since Davi whispered. Didn't he work on your demo? The one that had that verse. Suga nodded slowly. He was the only one who had access to the original files. Namgil's voice trembled. That's not all. The police found something in the fan's pocket. A note with coordinates written on it. It leads to an abandoned studio in Mapo, the same place Jaemin used to work. Suga's eyes met Jungkook's. We're going there. Namgil looked horrified. Absolutely not. The police will handle this. You're not going anywhere. But Suga's tone left no room for argument. This isn't just about safety anymore. Someone's using our music for something, and I need to know why. By midnight, they were already in a van, driving through the nearly empty streets of Seoul. The rain had thinned to a mist, turning the city lights into hazy blurs. None of them spoke much. Every turn felt like descending deeper into something unseen. The studio was hidden behind an old printing factory, long abandoned. Its windows were cracked, and the sign above the door had faded almost to nothing. They entered cautiously, their flashlights slicing through the darkness. The air smelled of mold and rust. J-Hope shivered. Man, this place gives me chills. Suga led the way. His footsteps echoed down the corridor until they reached a small recording booth. The glass was shattered. Dust covered the console, but something on it caught Jungkook's eye. A flash drive, half buried under a pile of old cables that he picked it up. Hyung, look. Suga took the drive and stared at it. Written in faded ink across its side were the letters BGN.V's voice trembled. The song's title. Suga didn't hesitate. He found an old laptop on the desk, miraculously still working when plugged in. The flash drive booted immediately, revealing a single audio file. Begin_final.mp3. They exchanged tense glances before Suga hit play. Static. Then a faint melody, slow, haunting, unmistakably his own composition from years ago. But as it played, something was wrong. The lyrics weren't the same. A distorted voice sang, overlapping with Jungkook's from the demo, whispering beneath the main vocals. You forgot your promise. You left the song unfinished, but the echo never dies. The sound warped, rising in pitch, until the speakers screeched. Jungkook covered his ears as the noise filled the room like static lightning. Then, suddenly, it cut off. The laptop screen flickered, then went black. A single phrase appeared in red. The last performance begins tomorrow. No one spoke. The only sound was the rain tapping against the roof. Jin broke the silence first, his voice barely a whisper. Tomorrow, our next concert is in Busan. Suga's jaw tightened. He could feel his pulse racing beneath his skin. Then that's where it ends, or begins again. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. In the darkened studio, the pendant on the table trembled slightly, as if responding to something unseen, its reflection shimmering like a heartbeat waiting to return. The morning air in Busan was unnaturally heavy. The ocean mist rolled across the city like smoke, swallowing the sunrise in gray. As the convoy of black vans pulled up to the concert venue, silence reigned inside. None of the BTS members spoke. None of them had slept. The words on that screen, "The last performance begins tomorrow," still echoed in every heartbeat. Jungkook pressed his forehead against the cold window, staring at the arena looming ahead. His hometown, the place that once meant warmth, laughter, family. Today, it felt like a trap. Suga sat opposite him, headphones on, but no music playing. His eyes were fixed on nothing. He kept replaying the melody from that corrupted file in his head, its warped voice whispering through his memories. You forgot your promise. You left the song unfinished. Namgil was on the phone at the front of the van, arguing with someone from the label. I don't care about the show right now. If there's any threat, we cancel. Yes, I said cancel. His voice cracked, desperation creeping in. He glanced back at the members, lowering his tone. You shouldn't even be here. But Jin spoke calmly, though his hands trembled in his lap. If we don't perform, we'll never find out what's happening. Whoever's doing this, they want us scared. They want us to run. Taeyong's voice was quiet, distant. Or they want us here. When they entered the venue, it was empty except for a handful of crew and security. The vastness of the stadium amplified every sound, the soft echo of footsteps, the distant hum of generators. It felt like standing in the ribs of a sleeping giant. Suga walked straight to the stage, running his fingers along the microphone stand. Check the equipment, he said. Every wire, every speaker. His tone was clipped, controlled. J-Hope tried to joke. Hyung's gone full detective now. But even his smile faltered. An hour later, Jungkook found something odd near the edge of the stage, a small black sticker under the monitor. Printed on it was a symbol none of them recognized. A circle split in half, one side white, the other black, with a single vertical line cutting through the center. V leaned in, frowning. Looks like some kind of logo. Suga crouched, tracing it with his thumb. It's the same mark that used to be on the early demo files. Jaemin's personal watermark. Jin's eyes widened. He marked the stage. Before anyone could react, a voice came through the intercom. One of the staff members backstage. Yoongi SSI? You might want to come here. We found something in the control booth. They followed the staff down the corridor. The booth was dim, filled with tangled cables and old equipment. On the main soundboard, taped to the console, was a single envelope labeled, "To the ones who forgot." Suga's hands were steady as he opened it. Inside was a note, handwritten in dark ink. You left me with silence. You buried the song. Now I'll finish what you couldn't. Below the message was a USB drive, identical to the one they'd found in Mapo. J-Hope swallowed hard. You're not really going to play it, are you? Suga didn't answer. He plugged the drive into the system. The monitor flickered, and a file began to play automatically. Grainy video footage from what looked like their Osaka concert years ago. The camera shook, zooming toward the stage. The members were performing Begin, the unreleased version, smiles bright under the lights. But then, static. The video warped, the image distorting until their faces melted into blurs. The crowd vanished. The lights dimmed that a single figure appeared in the empty arena, Han Jae-min. His face pale, eyes sunken. He looked directly into the camera. You took my work, my sound, my name. I built your voice, but they only heard you. So I wrote a song they'll never forget. The feed glitched again. Behind him, words appeared on a projection screen. Tonight, the song ends. Suga yanked the cable from the console. The monitor went black. His heart raced so hard it hurt. Namgil stormed in, shouting, "Enough! This show is cancelled. Do you understand me?" But before anyone could respond, the sound of feedback screamed from the main stage. High, sharp, and deafening. They rushed out. The arena lights had turned themselves on. The massive LED screen above the stage was flickering wildly, switching between static and one frozen image. The pendant that Jungkook's blood ran cold. "Hyung, that's your pendant." Suga looked up. "No," he said slowly. "That's his pendant." Security scrambled to shut down the system, but it was locked. On the screen, new words appeared. The final verse will be sung at 9 p.m. Jean checked his watch. It was 6:42. Namgil's voice broke. "We're leaving. Right now." But Suga stood rooted to the spot. "If we run, more people could get hurt. This isn't about us anymore. He's using our music, our name, to send a message. If we stop now, he wins." V looked at him, conflicted. "So what do we do? Go on stage and pretend nothing's wrong?" "No," Suga said quietly. "We finished the song. But our way." That night, the stadium filled as if nothing had happened. Fans screamed, lights glittered, and cameras flashed. None of them knew what had been discovered hours before. Backstage, the members gathered in silence. Each of them was trembling, not just from fear, but from the weight of something larger, something they didn't yet understand. At exactly 9 p.m., the house lights dimmed. The crowd roared. Jungkook stepped into the spotlight, microphone in hand. He glanced at Suga, who nodded once. Then, he began to sing. The opening notes of Begin, the lost song, filled the arena. But this time, it wasn't Jaemin's voice that carried the melody. It was theirs. For a moment, everything felt whole again. Until the lights flickered once, twice, and then, complete darkness. The music stopped. The audience gasped. A low hum filled the air, followed by a distorted voice echoing through every speaker, every screen, every ear. "You can't silence what was born in the dark." Screams erupted. The sound system exploded into static. From the center of the stage, the LED screen cracked open. Literally, sparking in that blinding chaos, Suga saw something, or someone, standing on the catwalk above them. A silhouette. Watching, the same pendant gleaming against his chest, and then, silence. The silence that followed was unbearable. Thousands of fans sat frozen in the darkness, their cheers replaced by terrified whispers. Only the faint crackle of electricity filled the air. Jungkook's breath came in short bursts as he scanned the catwalk above. Where the silhouette had been. It was gone. "Everyone stay still," Jean shouted, his voice echoing over the confused crowd. Security rushed the stage, flashlights slicing through the blackness like desperate beacons. Suga stood motionless, staring at the cracked LED screen where the voice had come from. "You can't silence what was born in the dark." The words echoed in his skull, low and vibrating, as if the sound had come not just from the speakers, but from inside him. Backstage, chaos erupted. Managers shouted into radios, guards sprinted down hallways, and alarms began to blare through the building. V and J-Hope were ushered toward the exit, but Suga didn't move. He climbed down from the stage, ignoring Namgil's frantic yelling. His instincts told him one thing. This isn't over. He pushed open a side door that led into the service tunnels beneath the arena, narrow corridors lined with pipes and cables. The air was damp, the hum of electricity vibrating through the walls. Jungkook followed close behind, flashlight trembling in his hand. "Hyung, what are you doing?" Jungkook whispered, his voice on the edge of panic. Suga didn't answer. His eyes caught something on the ground, a trail of wet footprints, leading deeper into the tunnel. "He's here," Suga said quietly. The tunnel stretched on endlessly, the smell of rust thick in the air. They turned a corner and froze. A small recording setup sat in the middle of the corridor. A microphone, a laptop, and a single red light blinking on a portable speaker. The speaker crackled to life. A distorted voice spilled out. Calm, almost melodic. "You came looking for me, didn't you, Yoongi?" Jungkook's grip tightened on the flashlight. "He knows we're here." Suga stepped closer. "Jaemin, what do you want?" The voice laughed softly, distorted by static. "I want you to remember. You made me invisible, remember? I built the sound that made the world love you. But they erased me. You erased me. Suga's pulse hammered in his ears. You left. You disappeared before our debut. We tried to find you. No, the voice replied. You moved on. You let them bury my music. The speaker hissed louder, then began playing something else, a fragment of Begin. But this version was different. Beneath Jungkook's youthful voice was a second layer, faint but unmistakable, Jaemin's voice, harmonizing with his. Jungkook staggered back. He recorded with me? Suga's face drained of color. He remembered now. The early sessions. The backup takes. The voice that had always been for testing only. They had used parts of Jaemin's harmonies in the final mix, without credit. You made me a ghost, the voice hissed. So I became one. Suddenly, the light in the tunnel flickered. The microphone began to swing on its stand, as if something unseen had brushed past it. Jungkook stepped back, heart pounding. Hyung, we need to go. But Suga didn't move. His eyes locked on the laptop. On its screen was a single line of text, glowing faintly through the dust. Final mix. Live upload. 2100 hours. Suga checked his watch. 8:47. He's broadcasting, he said. He's using tonight's feed to release something. They ran. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the tunnel as they burst back into the main corridor, where Namgil and Jin were waiting. We found him, Suga gasped. He's somewhere in the system. He's hijacking the broadcast. Namgil's eyes widened. You mean the global live stream? There are 60 million viewers waiting for the replay feed. Exactly, Suga snapped. He's going to use it. Taeyong grabbed his arm. Use it for what? Before Suga could answer, the arena's massive screens flickered back to life. The live stream had started, on its own, but it wasn't the concert footage. It was a grainy live feed of the same service tunnel they'd just left. And in that flickering image stood Han Jae-min. His face was gaunt, eyes hollow yet burning with intensity. The world could see him now, every fan, every viewer, every news outlet. You wanted a show, he said into the camera. So here's my encore. Security teams scrambled, but Suga's instincts kicked in. Cut the feed, he shouted. Already trying, a technician yelled back. But the system's locked, we can't override it. On the screen, Jaemin lifted the pendant in his hand, the same one that had haunted them for days. This, he said, was the heart of the song. The frequency that binds it all together. Once I activate it, the silence will break for good. The air in the arena vibrated. Speakers began to hum at a low, painful frequency. Fans covered their ears as the sound deepened, resonating through the metal structures of the stage. Lights burst one by one. Hyung, Jungkook shouted. He's using sound as a weapon, Suga finished, his eyes widening. He's amplifying the hidden tone, the one we left in the demo. He grabbed the nearest headset and shouted into the comms. Kill the power. Now, the sound grew louder, rising from a hum to a roar. Glass shattered. The screens distorted into swirling static. The frequency wasn't just noise. It carried something deeper, almost alive, a pulse that seemed to sync with every heartbeat in the room. J-Hope fell to his knees, clutching his head. Make it stop. And then, just as suddenly, it did. The screens went black. The power died. The arena was plunged into silence once more. Suga stood, breath ragged, staring at the lifeless monitors. Did we stop it? No one answered. Then, from the far end of the hall, a faint melody began to play. A piano, soft, haunting. They turned toward the sound. And there, projected faintly against the cracked screen, was an image of Jaemin, smiling now, almost peacefully. You finally listened, his voice whispered. But every song has two endings. The projection faded, and the pendant, lying now at Suga's feet, began to glow. The final frequency wasn't over. It had just found a new instrument. The glow from the pendant pulsed faintly, casting long shadows against the cracked floor. Everyone stood frozen, Jungkook, V, Jin, J-Hope, and Suga, all staring at it, as if afraid to breathe. The air in the arena felt heavy, electric, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Suga knelt slowly, his fingers trembling as he reached toward the pendant. The light shimmered, responding to his presence, soft at first, then brighter, sinking to the rhythm of his pulse. For a fleeting second, he thought he heard something inside it. A whisper, distant but distinct. You can't erase what you created. He flinched, yanking his hand back. What's happening, Hyung? Jungkook's voice cracked, his chest heaving. Is it him? Suga looked down, eyes dark. No, it's his work. Namgil rushed in, phone pressed to his ear. The entire network's still down. Broadcast servers, emergency systems, everything. It's like someone flipped a switch on the whole grid. He looked at Suga. This isn't just him anymore. Whatever he triggered, it's still running. V rubbed his temples, wincing. I can hear it. There's still sound, but it's not coming from anywhere. Everyone went quiet. And then they heard it too. A faint, high-pitched tone humming deep within the silence. It wasn't loud, but it was constant, like the ghost of a note left hanging in the air. Suga closed his eyes, focusing on the sound. His mind began to trace its frequency, instinctively analyzing it like he'd done with countless tracks before. But this wasn't a note. It was a pattern, a sequence that he opened his eyes. It's not random. It's coded. Jean frowned. Coded? You mean like a message? Suga nodded. It's data embedded in audio. A hidden signal. He turned to the technician at the console. Get me the recording from tonight. Everything from the moment the sound started. The man hesitated. Sir, we still don't have system access. Suga slammed his palm against the table. Then patch it manually. If we can isolate that tone, we can trace where it's transmitting. Namgil stared at him in disbelief. Yoongi, you think this is some kind of network attack? No, Suga said quietly. It's a performance. Minutes later, they gathered around a small, half-functional monitor. The waveform of the recorded frequency appeared, jagged, uneven, but deliberate. Suga leaned in, adjusting the settings. As he filtered the sound layer by layer, an image began to form within the audio spectrogram, a symbol. The same one they'd found under the stage, a circle split in half by a line. And beneath it, faintly written in spectral text, 3 words, Map of Resonance. V's breath hitched. Map, like map of the soul? Suga stared at the words, his expression darkening. No, this is different. This is his version. His answer to ours. Namgil's phone buzzed again. He stepped aside, answering quickly, but within seconds, his face went pale. The news, it's everywhere. Every city on the tour. Osaka, Tokyo, Manila, LA, fans are reporting the same tone. Even at home, the same frequency. J-Hope's voice shook. You're saying it's spreading? Suga's jaw clenched. He built it into the network. Every live stream, every upload, every broadcast connected to us, it's carrying the signal. The realization hit them all at once. Han Jae-min had never needed to be on stage. The stage itself was global. The lights flickered again, briefly bathing the room in ghostly white. When they came back, the pendant on the floor had stopped glowing. Its light had faded completely, leaving only silence. But then, the arena speakers came to life. A single voice, Jaemin's, echoed through the emptiness, soft and calm, almost intimate. The song was never about fame. It was about memory. You forgot where it began. So I'll remind you. The lights dimmed again. The massive LED screen above them flickered to life, displaying live footage, not of the arena, but of different cities. Seoul, Busan, Osaka, Los Angeles, London. In every video, people stood still in the streets, looking up, holding their phones. The same faint melody played from every device, every speaker, every screen. Suga whispered. He's connecting everyone. Through the tone, Jungkook's throat tightened. Then what happens when it ends? Suga didn't answer. He didn't know. Suddenly, a technician shouted. We've got a signal trace. It's coming from here. In the building. They rushed toward the source. Down another corridor, through locked maintenance doors, until they reached a narrow staircase descending into a lower control room. The hum was louder now, vibrating through the floor. Inside, dozens of monitors lined the walls, displaying real-time data. And at the center of it all, a single chair faced away from them. Jaemin. Suga called, his voice steady but cold. The chair turned. But it wasn't him. It was a woman, young, pale, wearing a faded engineer's badge. She looked up at them, eyes glassy with exhaustion. He's gone, she said quietly. He died years ago. Silence fell. No one moved. Suga's voice barely escaped his lips. Then who's been? The woman's lips trembled. Not who. What? He left behind something in the recordings. His voice, his patterns, his AI models. He called it the Resonance Project. When you released Begin, it triggered the system. The pendant is the key. You finished the song. Jungkook stumbled back, his chest tightening. So, the thing we heard, it wasn't him? Tears welled in the woman's eyes. It was him. Just not alive. Suga took a slow step forward, his mind spiraling. Then that means, she nodded weakly. It's still running. And it's looking for an ending. The monitors around them flickered all at once. The tone returned, low and harmonic, but this time layered with voices. Countless voices, overlapping, whispering fragments of lyrics. Jean clutched his head, whispering. It's singing back. Suga turned to the others, his voice firm now. Then we end it the only way music can end. He picked up the pendant, its metal still warm in his hand. We play the final note. He turned toward the soundboard. the team watching in stunned silence. His fingers hovered over the controls, ready to input the final command. But before he could press the key, the tone changed. It warped, rising, twisting, transforming into something that felt alive. And from the static, Jaemin's voice returned. Gentle, almost kind. You still don't understand, Yoongi. The song doesn't end with silence. It ends with memory. The screens went white. The sound engulfed everything. Then, nothing, just darkness, and the faint echo of a heartbeat still playing in the silence.